Hello, students and families. Happy Wednesday, and it's day 3 of your third week. I gave you guys a little bit of time after I've uploaded on both Clever and Edsby a way that you can navigate your new online packet. I wanted to see if you guys needed any help with downloading it because remember, when you hit file, you're not going to download as a copy, you're going to hit download as. And if you're not seeing any of that, in the meantime, just use paper. You may need to update some of the apps on your laptops or your computers, but your school computer should have those options. If not, keep on contacting me so that we can get on the phone and problem solve together like I have been with some of you in the last 2 days. And like I said, if not, in the meantime, or while you wait for me to get in contact with you, or as new problems come up, just go ahead and use a pencil and a paper to record your answers like it says to do in the slides, okay? This day's standard is a huge one when it comes to not only fifth grade, not only middle school, but as you get into high school and especially in college, you'll see that you're having to look at multiple texts to be able to write and speak in a mature way about a certain topic or about multiple topics or main ideas. So, it says to integrate information from multiple texts, okay, in order to write and speak about a topic. When you think integrate, think about those hand movements that we've made before when it comes to synthesizing information. So you're picking information and you are blending it in a way together in order to learn more and show that you've understood more about a particular topic or idea, okay? Before we get into this actual lesson, there are a lot of words and DSV words in your text, in the main two texts on page 353. And I want you guys to pay attention to the prefixes and suffixes because in the last 2 days, I believe in day 1, you guys had a prefix and suffix activity in your slides to do. So what I did was I pulled up a few little games online and I'm going to make those some extra links on our Edsby page. By the way, I'm loving y'all on our Edsby page. The comments that you guys have been putting up and your little hellos to each other. Oh my gosh, I love and miss you so much. Keep doing it. Let me show you real quick about or let me show you the little activities that I'm putting for you guys online. So you'll see this one little game. Once you hit start, a little window will pop up where you guys will be able to put in it can just be a fake name or a play name. We used to come up with fun little team names sometimes. I'm just going to go ahead and put Ram. You can choose a country that you'd like to represent. And I'm going to choose to represent Kenya. And you can choose between, or you can start with an easy game and then move on to some harder words where you might have to identify some Greek roots, okay? So once I hit start game, you'll see something like this. It'll ask you, what does pediatric mean? These are just some examples. The first time you click on one of these activities is not always going to give you the same question first. So you can do this many times, okay? And I'm not going to give you the answer there. All right. And here's another game that you guys will see, all right? And it's going to be a prefix and suffix Jeopardy. So let's say you hit suffix for 400. What's the suffix in socialism? Ooh, that's a good one. You take your guess and then you hit the space bar and you'll see what is ism, okay? Then in order to keep on going, you can hit escape and quiz yourself on another one, okay? Again, space bar after you've made your guess. And, oh, well, that one was an easy one. But yes, you guys are going to get those two games, okay? Alrighty, so let's move on to these texts right here. This one was just the introductory one, so we're just gonna breeze through this one. It asks, let's see, just grabbing my flare pens. Alrighty, and it starts on slide 16 in your packet, okay? So you see a little conversation going on between these three individuals. They're trying to find out where their mystery party is. Think about these three bubbles as three different texts. They are three different text messages, so think of them as source 1, source 2, and source 3, okay? And the topic is the mystery party, all right? I've color-coded it in pink, blue, and yellow. And again, pink, blue, and yellow, all right? Down here, I know we usually don't always do the writing parts, but I wanted to see you guys, for you guys, sorry, to see just a little example of how these three texts come together to go back to integrating information, to learn more about a topic, and to speak and write about a topic. So it asks about combining the information in these three texts or in these three sources so that you can gather or integrate information about that topic, okay? So I wrote by combining the information from three sources or three messages or three texts, the readers can figure out, or another word for that is conclude, that that means they are invited to a mystery party. There's the topic that will take place on April 10th. And you see the 10th right there, April 10th, at the Pizza, it is right there in blue, Palace, which was right there again, on First Street, okay? Which again was right there. Now, obviously, when you guys read informational texts in the future, or if we were to continue reading that in class in 5th grade, it obviously is not going to look this way, like a little message that you have to decode. But basically, this lesson in this little book just wanted to show you that it will feel sometimes like there's a code that you have to crack and that you do have to pull together or integrate information in order to write in a nice flowy way about what it is that the authors want you to learn about or what the main idea that they want you to get from it is. So moving on to this section, in these two texts, you'll see some domain-specific vocab words, which I've pre-coded. Think about pre as a prefix that means before. There's inventor, low battery mode, transmit, techniques, devices, tuning forks, so cool, electrical engineer, patent, wireline, and machine. Okay. There's telegraph and application. I didn't box all down here because some of them were already shown up here. Some of the prefixes and suffixes that I'm not going to tell you the meaning of right now, but I want you to keep your eyes peeled for them, and I want you to just be thinking about what it might mean as you reread this or as you read this along with me. For prefixes, some of them will be familiar to you. They've been on our backboard in the classroom before. We have trans, tech, mech or Mac. Usually it's really mech, but you'll see Mac as in machine, tele, and app. Okay, when you think of an application or an appliance, when you download apps on your phone, application is really the longer word for it. Okay, suffixes, which goes at the end of a word, ick, ickle, graph, shun, mit, or, which sometimes sounds like and phone, okay, which I know that we think about this as a word by itself, but think of words like telephone or microphone, okay? Let's go ahead and begin and see what words we can start integrating from here. Or see what messages and pieces of information from the text we can start integrating in order to fill this information out, okay? Bell on the Telephone by Melanie Cartwright. On March 10th, 1876, Alexander Graham Bell's hard work paid off, positive tone, mood, feeling, Thomas Watson, friend and fellow inventor, okay, so I'm thinking collaboration, cooperation here, heard Bell speaking clearly from the receiving end of the very first working telephone. So in my mind, I want to visualize this. They're making some kind of little invention. There's a telephone, and one person is speaking, one person is hearing it clearly from this end, okay, from the receiving end. So I wrote down right here, it's telling me who Bell was. It says mostly that he was an inventor. Bell was an inventor through and through. That's figurative language right there. He had a deep fascination with sound and wanted to invent a way to transmit over long distances. Think about that word and that meaning, transmit. He started small. He developed techniques and devices to communicate with his mother and other members of the deaf community. I'm going to put a little positive right there. It shows that he wants his work to have a deeper meaning. He performed sound experiments, which is why I put experiments up here, because it's also telling about little things that he did with whatever he could, from tuning forks to the family dog. Hopefully family dog didn't get hurt. Do an experiment on your pets if you can hurt them. Eventually, should honestly be a comma right there. Bell figured out that electricity would be the key to transmitting sound, but didn't know enough about it. That didn't stop him. In 1875, when he met Watson, a skilled electrical engineer, Bell asked for his help. That year, Bell wrote his first patent for technology and transmitted voices over a wire line. 1 year later, he introduced the telephone to the United States. He patented his electronic speech machine in 1876. Okay, so I wrote down patent for the main little phrase or word for the third paragraph of the first text. Think about what we can underline right here. You'll see that I did put in a really faint yellow because I wanted you guys to go ahead and pause it if you haven't yet and underline what you think is most important. Okay, so you can pause and underline. If you've unpaused, here's what I chose to underline. Okay. This one shows a breakthrough in one of his little experiments. It tells you again he was an inventor. It tells you what he wanted to do. It tells you something that he realized, that he needed electricity. It would be the key, the main thing, the main ingredient, if you will, to transmitting sound, because that was, again, his goal, right? I'm not underlining the stuff about Watson. Okay, this is an important event right here. And this is what they called it, or what he called it, and again, when it happened. Alrighty, I'm going to again read. You decide what you think should be underlined. Elisha Gray was a gifted electrical engineer. He was one of the most important inventors of his time. In 1876, he was ready to patent an amazing device. He had invented one of the very first telephones, yet Gray is unknown to most people today. Why? Okay, so it's telling us that even though he did something important, he was unknown to many people nowadays, and now they're asking, this is important, why? That tells me that they're going to answer that question of why. Go ahead and underline what you think should be underlined. While you're doing that, I'm actually going to pull up a little picture of Elisha Bell, Elisha Gray and Graham Bell, Alexander Graham Bell up there, okay? The telegraph, invented in the 1870s, allowed written messages to be transmitted along a wire. It was popular, but many people wanted more. Inventors raced to develop a way to transmit a person's voice along a wire. By 1876, Alicia Gray found a way, but on the very same day, the patent office in Washington received word of his invention. They received a patent application for the same technology from someone else. That person's name was Alexander Graham Bell, who we read about up here. Ugh, how frustrating for Alicia Gray. I'm going to put a little negative sign right there. Bell was awarded the first U.S. patent for the telephone later that year. While the patent office said they had received Bell's application first, the true inventor of the telephone has been debated since. Thinking about what you read towards the end of last week with author's point of view, how would you compare this author's point of view to this author's point of view? You have Bell and the Telephone, written by Melanie Cartwright, and you have Did Gray or Bell Invent the Telephone by Tom Zhao. If you asked anyone, most people would say that Bell is the one who invented the telephone. Whereas Tom over here, this author, wants you to question that information, wants you to question that little historical fact. And they're presenting new information to you, a question, okay? What do you think Tom believes? Okay, all righty. I'm gonna go ahead and underline. Pause if you haven't done it yet. Okay. Gifted electrical engineer, positive tone, mood, feeling, positive word choice. Okay. Invented one of, and I highlighted one of, the very first telephones. Yet, so that means but, Gray is unknown to most people today. So he's not as popular, right? So I'm going to write down unknown, but I also wrote down IMP for important. The telegraph invented in the 1870s. I'm going to go ahead and underline 1870s. I'm going to underline what it does. Okay. I'm going to also underline very same day, patent office in Washington, same technology, Alexander Graham Bell. This is where it comes to Gray's problem, because he did not, the author here is trying to tell you that he didn't get credit for also inventing that supposedly on the same day. Bell was awarded the first, so Bell, right, that guy from the first text, awarded the first U.S. patent for the telephone. I'm gonna even box this. I'm so sorry that my Flair pen is dying. Okay. True inventor of telephone, and I'm going to circle the word debated. Okay. All right. And here's your little picture. This one shows you from the first text, Alexander Graham Bell. That's from this text. And this one shows you Alicia Gray, okay, from this text. All right, want to see him again? Okay, so from your little graphic org that you had to fill out, you had to integrate information from both passages. So on this side, you should write Bell. On this side, you should write Gray. Or if you're making this little chart on your own, you can write down source 1 and source 2, okay? On the side, you can just write down who. It says who were Bell and Gray, but you can just write down who. You can write down work, and you could write down why, okay? What work did they do? Why did they do it? Or what was their purpose for this work? Okay. And who were Bell and Gray? If you haven't done this one yet, go ahead and look in your two texts. All right, so it says that Bell up here was an inventor, right? And it says that Gray was not only an inventor, but he was also a gifted electrical engineer. Okay, what work did they do? I learned about how they were Bell had been experimenting for a while, and the main work that he did, that main thing that the history says that he did, was that he created that electronic speech machine, right? In 1876, right, when he turned in his application for that patent to Washington. Whereas in the second text, what work did it say that Gray did? It also says that he wanted to do the same thing with turn in that application, and that he also made that invention, but it just so happened that earlier on, Bell just did it before he did. Again, so sad. So again, the same year, 1876, invented one of the first telephones. So the author kind of has to be a little bit careful in how he or she words it, on how Tom words it. Unless Tom could also be a girl. We're not judging. All right. Why did they do it? What was their purpose for working? It says right up here, he wanted to. Why don't I go ahead and highlight that right there? It tells you his actual personal desire. He wanted to invent a way to transmit sound over long distances. So not just like, hey, hi, from across the room, something where I can talk to maybe my parents in Trinidad, or you can talk to your family members in the beautiful Dominican Republic, right? Okay, so wanted to invent a way to transmit sound over long distances. Back then, they were probably also not just thinking country to country. They were probably mostly focused on at least getting it within the U.S. All right. And you go ahead and put, why did Elisha Gray do it? Why does it state that he did it? Go ahead and write that one down. Even though people or somebody had already invented the telegraph. Oh, poor flippin'. You can start off like that. What else did he want? It says people wanted more. Okay. What did he find a way to do? All right. So once you finish this up, remember, you can go ahead. You can even skip over because it won't take long for you to do these two and integrating information from these texts and finishing this up, and that's what we'll quickly touch on tomorrow, and also on your answer for that last little piece of the graphic organizer. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, and make sure that you go ahead, look at those games that I found for you on those little websites. They should look like this and like that. And have a great day.